Welcome to the Corporate Treasury 101 podcast. This is the third and last section of our full interview with Aimee Cullen. Aimee is a seasoned Treasury professional and had numerous leading roles in corporate Treasury departments, such as Johnson & Johnson, where she grew from Business Analyst to Senior Manager, Capital Markets and Global Cash Analysis, or Car Trawler, where she was the Head of Treasury. She also is the president of the IACT, the Irish Association of Corporate Treasurers, and a thought leader in the treasury industry. In the episode of today, expect to learn what is the role of the IACT, the Irish Association of Corporate Treasurers, what are the events they organize and around what themes, what other missions the association has, how is a National Treasury Association typically structured, what is the future for the IACT, and much, much more. Aimee is simply amazing. She is full of insights, truly embodies her role as a leader, and the conversation is super interesting. Hussam and I really enjoyed it, and we hope you will like it as well. If that is the case, please consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast app. It literally takes only 2 seconds, helps the podcast a lot, allows us to interview more and more amazing people such as Aimee, but more importantly, makes Hussam and I very, very happy indeed. With all that being said, please welcome Aimee Cullen.
Super clear. And maybe continuing with Ireland, can you explain us a little bit more about the IACT, so the Irish Association of Corporate Treasurers? What is their role exactly?
So I'm president of the IACT this year and delighted.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But really, really enjoy the role because throughout my career, the IACT has been a really important point of contact for me in terms of peer-to-peer networking, sharing of best practices, understanding what the legislative changes are, how we need to adapt, what are my peer companies doing, back in the time in advance of Brexit, when we're looking at Pillar 2 tax changes, for example, what are you thinking about doing? What do we think the implications are going to be? It's, I would say, importantly, it is that sharing of best practices, and the networking, the educational piece. So I can sign up to a briefing on a particular topical issue and I can actually reach out to the ICT and say, could you put this on, please? Because, Ireland, again, Treasury globally is small, but in Treasury in Ireland is even smaller. So people will know each other and have that access to be able to ask for it. So I think, two of the main advantages, I would say, or the offerings that the IACT will give to the Treasury community is that educational piece and the opportunity to network and understand what people are doing. Only yesterday we had a Women in Treasury led event together with HSBC looking at demystifying Treasury tech. So going back to, the conversation we've had on how do you optimize your tech? It's an investment, it's expensive, it's disruptive. So it's great to have the opportunity to hear from people, like, what are you doing? How are you doing it? What were your lessons learned? And to share that. For me, going from companies like Johnson & Johnson to a smaller company, it's great to still be able to speak to the multinational companies to see what best in class is and what I can cherry pick from what they're doing and implement, for my company.
Have you seen that NTAs in general, right? These National Treasury Associations in general, are they all like that? Is IACT somewhat best in class? How do you see it versus others? I know you're biased because you're president.
No, I could be objective.
You're gonna make it the best in the world, or?
Well, the IACT is part of the European Association of Corporate Treasurers. So you will see differences, particularly with the ACT, so the UK Association of Corporate Treasurers, who now have, I think, the North America Treasury Association as well. So they are obviously a lot bigger and they would have dedicated staff. Whereas for the IACT, and I think in a lot of the smaller countries, it's a voluntary committee. So you'll be asking people basically to give up their time and to join this committee, to try and steer and, decide and talk about and think about what might be interesting to the treasurers and what they want to hear about. But then one thing I didn't actually mention just a moment ago, another responsibility of the IACT is in advocating on behalf of treasurers as well. So if you have accountancy bodies making proposed changes or legislation comes in, even things around EMIR, for example, we can consolidate that feedback from our members and then elevate it. So we would bring it to the Department of Finance, to the Central Bank of Ireland, but then through our EACT structure, we can also bring it to Europe and have that discussion and then hear across peer organizations what they're thinking and what they're doing. And then just band together, to try and get the voices heard.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the typical structure of the IACT? So you're president, does the IACT have a treasurer?
It does. It absolutely does. He's a great treasurer. Yeah. He's got the right balance of, keeping us accountable, but then also fully supportive of, making sure that we're investing in briefings, that we're hosting the right amount of briefings, that we're, giving members what they need as well, and the opportunity to network and to learn. So yeah, we absolutely have a treasurer. So our executive committee, if you like, is the president, vice president, and treasurer. And this year we have, I think it's 11 people on the committee. So working to get that gender balance and also a good level of experience and representation across the committee. So we have, multinationals, we've got Irish companies, we've got people focused on investments, then people that might be group treasurers. So we're very, very lucky. As I mentioned, like, it is a small community in Ireland, but people are really engaged and like to be able to interact and to share ideas.
I wonder if it's even more prestigious to be treasurer of the Irish Treasurers Association. That seems like
potentially
an interesting role. Very cool. So how many members are you right now? Across Ireland?
Approaching about 450.
Wow, that's not small at all.
No. And, this year, and I suppose last year, we really kicked off like a young treasurer initiative to try and get people in at a younger age. We're really seeing, that take off this year. We've had a lot of really oversubscribed events, I would say. We're looking at the women in treasury piece because, I've done treasury all my life. I know a huge amount of female treasurers. I know women that are in very senior positions. But when I joined the IACT a couple of years ago, after coming back to Ireland from being in the US, I was looking at the membership profile and there are only 20% women, which I thought was very strange given what I had seen, and had a few conversations with female treasurers, and it was just the ability to participate. I was told my entire team are female, but it's just the participation. So as a committee, we've really focused on that and tried to give the opportunities, be it the timing of the events, what are we discussing, what do people want to hear about? So we've seen that improve as well. So I think we're well over 30% now, and growing. So,
very cool.
Really, really good. Yeah, it's good to see.
Super important. So trying to link those two topics together, we've been discussing, Aimee, the IACT and Treasury centers. Are you guys working towards fostering this culture further? Do you see the sort of, what we said, right? Self-fulfilling prophecy. Is the IACT itself one of those factors that's pushing Treasury centers in Ireland further?
Yes. I mean, in that, we do a lot through, say, our IACT awards, where we'll promote, Treasury centers or people that have done really, really interesting things. So just showcasing that Irish talent. We're very close. We do work closely with the ACT. So, you're going and speaking with people. We work closely with the IDA. So just, again, to give them a base, have been very happy to speak to companies that might be considering locating in Ireland, but then also I think the key challenge is that talent piece and letting people know, you do have the expertise here and you do have the structure. So part of, obviously our organization is very focused on education, but it's also why this year we're focusing on the inclusion and the education. Because I think Treasury can have this very, people might have a stereotypical testosterone fuel trading desk in their head when they think about Treasury, but Treasury is so broad. We talked about the different types of treasury centres that you have. There is the governance piece, there's the regulatory piece, there's the trading piece, there's the IT piece. There's so much to it. Like, it really is a multifaceted career. And I think it's important as an IACT to promote that and to give examples. Again, because then you've got a good talent base for companies to take advantage of. We also want to stay on top of the banks, demanding from them that they sort of talk to us about new products, that we tell them what we need and they develop, and then we give them, because we've got a lot of great patrons in the banks and in the advisory services that will come and talk to us about what's new in the market, which is also really important. So I think that would really be it, how we're trying to advocate for that treasury career.
And what's your role more globally? Or do you have a reach, like beyond Ireland and Europe? Like, do different treasury associations work together? Like with the US Treasury Association, which perhaps you're a part of when you're staying there. Do you guys do anything together, or would you like to see more of that?
In Europe, there'd definitely be a lot more. And yes, I would like to see more of it. But what we will do, typically is done. So for example, we'd have our annual dinner, we have our annual conference. We'll always invite the president or some of the committee from the other ACTs around the world to join us. So they come and share ideas that way. And like, it's a lot easier through the EACT. And because it's an established conference, we have representative with the EACT from our committee. And so he will go and attend meetings, and I think they're probably monthly, and feed back to us what people are talking about there. So that's how we keep that dynamic going. I think the Middle East is going to become a massive market, right? If you think about, sort of like, even Dubai was always touted as being a next hub for a treasury centre. Like, you definitely, when you think about the different countries that are within Africa and it being closer, like thinking again about time zones, being able to go and visit those countries, that's probably somewhere. I know the ACT obviously has the presence there, but probably a lot more for us to do in terms of sharing experiences in those markets and what might work, and the products that you should be thinking about. Because like a lot of countries, like, if you look at India, are demonetized. Like, they don't really want to use cash. Everything is digital. So that presents challenges for treasurers. And it's great to have people and associations on the ground that you can reach out to there to, again, connect your workers. So there's lots of scope for interaction and idea sharing.
Very interesting. If you had one more point, so we touched on diversity and inclusion, gender inclusion and seniority inclusion. We touched on the more wider reach and tapping into other regions that perhaps don't have that much of a developed Treasury Association. In your reign as president, did you have any other goals that you are working towards that you feel like is really important for the IACT?
The inclusion is a big thing for me, and making our presence known. So I think we probably all have Zoom fatigue, right, after COVID. But what's very important to me is having in-person events for people to join and to meet somebody, because I don't think that every interaction has to be done through an IACT briefing or social event. What's very important to me is that people make those relationships and then can go off and then meet separately, for coffees, for Zoom meetings if it has to be, or on site to share best practice, but just that you grow it. We're also making a concerted effort to go into the colleges. So to see how can we work with the graduate programs, different finance courses within the main universities in Ireland, and also through some of the other professional bodies. Again, promoting treasury as a career, but then knowing that when you take on your role as a treasurer, you're absolutely speaking to the finance directors, you're talking to the tax team, you're talking to legal. So just building those relationships. And again, just like, I'm a huge advocate for a treasury career. So as much as I can do to promote it and to sort of sing its praises to people, like, I'm happy to do that. And that's really where we're going with the committee this year.
Cool. Aimee, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. Is there anything that we didn't touch on or you want to add on to the different topics that we discussed?
I don't think so. I think I know it probably wasn't the most eloquent of descriptions.
No, it was amazing. It's great. And if people want to know more about the IACT and connect with you, where can they go?
Well, we have the treasurers.ie website. So we have all of our events there. I am very happy. A lot of the events are open to non-members as well as members. So can connect through there, or then obviously I have my LinkedIn profile. So,
which will all be in the show notes below. Aimee, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you.